the piece of it that I feel like is missing in the traditional system is humility.
Mm-hmm.
Because the truth is, we don't know. The whole thing, the myth of the serotonin theory being busted. Because the truth was, we didn't know.
Yeah.
All along. We don't know how the medications work. Truly. We don't know what's causing depression. Truly. We don't know.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things that is interesting to me, as I've spoken with you, all of the research that I've done, I've read so many books trying to figure out how to help myself. Whenever I talk to somebody, I always ask them to tell me their story. And within usually 10 minutes, there's at least one indicator of like, oh, well, that's probably where these symptoms came from, but I feel like I don't criticize psychiatrists. I had a psychiatrist that I loved, my last psychiatrist that saw me for almost a decade, who was actually the one who finally agreed to help me with the micronutrition. He really cared about me. I knew that he cared about me. And I knew that he had gone into psychiatry because he cared about people and he wanted to help. But I feel like the system itself is the culprit. The system that you guys are trained in the first place has created diagnostic criteria solely based on symptoms. And even though you fill out all this paperwork, when I went in, I hated intake because every time I would switch psychiatrist, I'd have to fill out this pile of forms. But it felt like it was looking for history of symptoms. It wasn't really looking for what is your history? Do you have a history of trauma? Is there, when they were looking for symptoms, it wasn't looking for causes. It was looking for symptom clusters. And their focus was on the symptoms, not on what could potentially be causing the symptoms to occur.
Yeah. I wish I could disagree with that, but that is the nature of the approach. And I would say what differs for me now is, with the luxury of like experience, right, and lived years.
Yeah.
Now it's a listening for exactly what you said, like for, okay, what could have gone into this set of behaviors and perceptions to actually happen.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the thing, that there's a crux of it that that I find challenging in terms of the traditional system is there's no room for wondering.
Yeah.
There's no room for like, wait, what might be going on here? What's possibly actually contributing to all that? It's much more of you're immediately expected to put a person in a lane and put a label on that and treat it. And that's it. Don't think about it anymore. Just that's it. An indefinite treatment. And for me at this point in stage and phase of my life and careers, I would say I've become so much of a learner and a listener from my patients. I've never, it's particularly these last 3 or 4 years, I've learned so much from the people that I speak to, rather than, and two, maybe it's just this fundamental orientation of you're conditioned to be the one that spits out all the answers. You've got to come up with the solution, spit out the answers. It's almost like you're expected to be a one-way phenomenon. Like, I'm going to tell you what's wrong with you, and here's your next steps, and here's how you're going to fix it and that. Whereas I feel like for me, in this stage and phase of things, I've become I'm learning from these people's experiences. I don't know. It opened up the door of wondering, like, What is bipolar disorder? What causes it? What
Yeah.
contributes to it? We don't know. And here's the thing too, is that other piece of it, which I think comes down to essentially like humility. I'm sorry, I'm going like way on the soapbox
No,
here.
this is great. No, keep going.
Okay. Um, it's truly the piece of it that I feel like is missing in the traditional system is humility.
Mhm.
Because the truth is, we don't know. The whole thing, the myth of the serotonin theory being busted. Because the truth was, we didn't know.
Yeah.
All along, we don't know how the medications work. Truly, we don't know what's causing depression. Truly, we don't know. So how about? Because to me, that's a true scientist.
Yeah.
A true scientist is going to wonder and wonder and wonder, and it takes layers. It's multifaceted. It's very complicated for us to preside over another human being and tell them or try to portray ourselves as if we understand their mental well-being and everything that goes into it, as if we understand how the human psyche and the human body, where they intersect, how they intersect. What does that even mean?
Yeah.
Like, where is that? And so for me, this for me has been the era of maybe just going back into true science, or true scientific approaches is trying to understand. And that requires listening. It requires paying attention earnestly.
Yeah.
It requires identifying patterns, taking a lot of data and information from people. It also requires this other aspect of things. It's believing
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
That was a huge shift for me. And I have to say, I mean, I didn't always function that way. I can remember some of the things I did or said to other human beings in the role of being a psychiatrist, where I now cringe at that. And I think I know why I did it, and I know why all psychiatrists do it, because that's the way we're trained. That's the
Yeah.
culture. That's the culture of this profession. It's the culture of the medical community. So I can understand where it comes from. And I do see a lot of people who are really frustrated with psychiatry. And a lot of people who want to blame their psychiatrist. And I try to remind them of this human being
Yeah.
is just as much a product of the system as the patients and the people being, quote unquote, served by it.
Yeah.
These are humans who I know these people. I knew them personally, and I know they all want to help people, and they all came into this profession to help people. But the thing about the lack of humility, our inability to say, we don't know.
Yeah.
We know that these medications have these particular effects that we can observe on people, which vary widely across individuals. I mean, very widely.
Yeah.
That's another amazing thing, astounding thing I've found.
Oh, I absolutely.
Oh my gosh. And it makes sense. I mean, truly. And the more we talk about the human genome and how much we differ individually, everybody now getting all their genetic tests done and understanding, yeah, we're all humans and we have a lot of very similar functionings physiologically, but our genes and how we metabolize medications and how they distribute themselves throughout our body and in our brain, wow,
Yeah.
very vastly different. And when I opened up to believing that or seeing that, suddenly I could hear people's stories, and it was I've seen people have mind blowing responses to medications where somebody else could take it, no problem.
Yeah.
They just live their life, move on. I've seen other people take psychiatric medication and it grinds their life to a halt.
Yeah.
Or how they come off of the medications, the tapering of medications or the changing of doses. Some people can handle, okay, the adage of, cut it in half for, to taper off, cut it in half for a couple of weeks and then cut it in half again and stop.
Yeah.
But there's a ginormous percentage of people out there whose biochemistry and brain do not adapt to that change. well at all.
Yeah.
And helping those people is kind of where I've ended up just found the niche of those who feel ready to consider lowering their medication, or those who are, ready and or clear that it's clear that it would be, potentially safe for them to come off, helping them do that safely, as safely as we can, as mindfully as we can. Because there's otherwise people are stuck, like somebody who went on Prozac 10 years ago because they had a major loss in their life. It's 10 years later. They are not the same person. Their biology is not the same. Their psyche is not the same. They want to come off, but when they try to go off cold turkey it or cut it in half, that it goes terribly. Actually coming off Prozac is not that hard if you do it the right way, a slow, gradual taper. So, and to me, people staying trapped on the medication seemed so inhumane and unfair.
Yeah.
Or people not knowing their options about other ways to help themselves seemed to me just defeating. It doesn't make common sense to me.